What is going on, Wolfpack Nation? Hope everybody's doing well this Sunday evening. Thank you all so much for tuning in with us. Definitely so excited for this live stream. Again, we got a great group of guys here today. Looking forward to obviously special guest here, Bobby Black from the Two Man Podcast. Bobby, thanks so much for tuning with us, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. This
Yeah.
is the second time I've been on with y'all. Anderson's 0 for 2. He had a prior engagement, but hopefully he'll be around at some point.
That's okay. Hey, it happens, and so, but again, we appreciate it, man. And obviously, we still got Greg and Michael here with us as well, and obviously digging Greg's background, obviously with the old school helmet and then the diamond
nice.
logo in the back as well. So, love to see a little bit of color there as well. But so
Appreciate
again, so today, and Justin Cook already saying, "Hey everyone, yeah, what's up, Justin? Hope you're doing well, brother." So again, make sure if this is really just kind of an open conversation here for the next hour or so. So any questions, comments that you guys have, if you guys want to say, hey, make sure to again send us a comment. We'd love to do so. But so jumping right into it, obviously we'll kind of talk about what I'm sure everybody wants to talk about here a little bit. But not necessarily probably the same way that maybe a lot of people may expect it. And the one thing I'm really getting at is we actually received a couple different requests about because and Bobby and Greg and Michael, I'm sure you guys probably agree with me, and I know I can see it as well. But there definitely is a divide right now when it comes to men's basketball. There's a lot of people that are not necessarily like oh man, Keats is the best, but a lot of people are like, okay, so because basically I think there's really two arguments. There's basically the NCAA investigation just went away. We need to give Keats some time to now see what he can do without that huge bubble hanging over his head. And then there's just those that are just like, yeah, no, Keats is done. We're last place in ACC right now. This is, his what fourth or fifth year, whatever it is, and he needs to go. And so how do we kind of get on the same page? How do we kind of figure it out together? And the one thing which I want to go ahead and say about that is, I mean, I know with every single team out there, you're never going to have 100% one way or another. Or let's put it this way: there's always going to be a 1 or 2 percenters that think against everybody else. But so and that's that's healthy. It's natural. So so Bobby, I want to kind of hear your thoughts on it first. I mean, I know that you guys have definitely expressed concern just like the rest of us, and because then we're all State fans. We all want the same thing. We just have different opinions on how to get there. That's really, I think, what it all kind of comes down to, really.
So I'm kind of in the middle of this, leaning towards the more, I guess, severe side.
Sure.
I will admit, for me personally, I don't think Keats is the answer long term. Just we don't have a system really, and that's the biggest thing. Even when we made the tournament, we were having some success. We still never really ran anything. But I realized this year especially, all the injuries. That sucks. That's gonna hurt you. And the NCAA thing, I get that as well. So for me, again, I say I don't think Keats is the guy long term. I definitely think there needs to be a conversation at the end of the season between Boo and Coach Keats that say, hey, this isn't going to fly. We're a program with multiple national championships. This isn't going to cut it. I do think for us to be successful, and it wouldn't surprise me, no matter who it is, I don't think that we will have the same guys on the bench in the coaching seats this year as we do next year.
Yeah, I think we all are pretty much in agreement that during this offseason there definitely needs to be some adjustments on the assistant coaching staff side, and because at the end of the day too, the biggest thing which I like is, again, I love like kind of saying like this again where we just have a conversation, because really at the end of the day, what we say here isn't going to change anything in terms of like it's not like Boo's sitting here going, oh, the guys think we should fire Keats. Okay, I'm going to fire him. Like, well, let's put it this way. I sure hope he's not thinking like that. So, so at the end of the day, it's healthy to have a conversation like this. And then I agree with you for sure. And with some things and with others, I kind of see a little bit long term. Like one thing which I want to say, and then Greg, I want to kind of give you an opportunity here to build off it. But, obviously one thing for sure is I know for us here at Tuffy Talk, we love and support 100% Debbie Yao. Like, we all would say that. I mean, she is one of the greatest people to ever come into the NC State athletic program. I mean, what she did with this athletic program from top to bottom was just absolutely spectacular. And so obviously, I know it's a little bit biased because she did hire Keats, but definitely, her voicing publicly on Twitter, even after thinking about it, like, yeah, listen, we need to give Keats a little bit more time here just to see what he can do. On an even playing field here without that NCAA bubble hanging over. Because really, do when you kind of hear the explanation about kind of what a like a Carolina or a Duke can say about NC State because of the NCAA violation that's in the cloud, it does make sense. It's like, yeah, okay. I mean, kids probably don't want to come because they don't want to start the season, then to come to find out, oh, I can't even play in the tournament this season. So I mean, Greg, I want to kind of give you an opportunity here to jump in here on that.
Yeah. Starting off with like the investigation, we're not the first school that's gone through that. And like, I mean, Carolina had that hanging over their heads for so many years, and they were still able to recruit at a level and compete. Now you can even throw in Auburn. Oklahoma State did it just recently. So I don't know if that's necessarily a 100% solid argument. And especially in a
Mm-hmm.
sport like basketball, we only need maybe two or three horses to make a run. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like Bobby. I don't know if Keats is the answer long term.
Yeah.
Everyone said Kevin Keats is a winner. That was a big old slogan to begin with, and he has proven on the lower levels that he is a winner, but not at the Power Five level. So I know he was part of that championship run at Louisville a few years ago. So he does kind of have some championship pedigree, but it just hasn't shown yet for whatever reason, whether it's, one person, away, but, that person seems to get injured.
Mm-hmm.
We were really hanging our hats on Manny this year. And, when you put all your eggs in one person, that seems to backfire more times than not. So
Yeah.
I want to see him succeed. I don't like this revolving carousel of coaches.
No.
But every 2 or 3 years, you're making a change, or every 3 or 4 years, you're making a change, and then you're setting your program back another 2 years, right? Or at a minimum.
Right.
And recruits see that kind of stuff. They're like, well, I don't know what kind of stability is going to be there. Like, is that coach going to be there through the long haul of my college career?
Mm-hmm.
So at some point you have to draw that line in the sand and go, okay, like, we're gonna ride or die with this guy, or what is the ultimatum? But there has to be some kind of change, whether that's on the head coaching level or on the assistant coach level.
Well, because and one thing I want to make as well, and then Michael, I want to kind of get you into this as well. But
Yeah.
because the one thing too is that this is not a normal. This is we're in a moment here in the ACC that has not come in 20, 30 years, where literally
Mhm.
Roy's out, Coach K is about to leave. Jim Boeheim is. I mean, let's be real. When all your buddies leave, you don't want to be there anymore. So it's only going to be a matter of time before Jim Boeheim bounces out as well, especially with his son eventually is going to graduate. And so, if this was going on during any other time, I think it would be a little bit more push on getting Keats out. But right now, it's kind of like everybody else is starting over. So do we really want to start over with them? It's like because especially too with seeing how Hubert Davis has done so far. Obviously, again smacked out of the Dean Dome yesterday by Duke, losing by 20. But I mean, obviously, losing by 20 doesn't really explain how bad Carolina got beat yesterday. So definitely a lot of nervous Carolina fans there from that side. Then I mean, I'm not necessarily sold on Shire yet, but we'll see what happens with him as well. It's a weird time right now in the ACC basketball overall, really.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys have said, I'm in the middle as well. I could probably lean towards giving Keats another year, maybe two.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, depending on how next year goes, and then if he gets another year after that, um. But you're right. We need to capitalize on this changing of the guard in the triangle.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I think I think Keats, the biggest thing, one of the bigger things I hear from people is saying that he's only made one NCAA tournament. It was in the first year,
Mm-hmm.
which is true. He's also I believe he's the only coach in NC State history to have a winning record in his first four seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and obviously with COVID and stuff, we missed out on a tournament that year. Probably would have been in. So like
And he
Greg
was
said,
also
I don't
and he
like.
was also one of the first coaches to beat Duke, Carolina, and Wake Forest his first year as well.
That's right.
Yeah,
So.
I'm like Greg. I don't like to see the revolving door, so
No.
I do lean towards, giving him a little bit more time.
And one other thing too, Bobby, and I'm going to kind of ask you this as well. I think that one other thing, which really for me is kind of pushing also too to Keats giving him a little bit more time, is because I mean, obviously, Dilly, Robert Dillingham, watching this guy and seeing what he does, highlight film, and I mean, I've had actually the pleasure of seeing him play in person, and there's no doubt this guy could go down. Just like, again, I mean, I know that it's all speculation. This guy is just a junior in high school. He's still got a long way to go. A lot of things can happen, but there's no doubt by just watching this guy and what he does on the basketball court that, I mean, he could be one of the most talented players to come to NC State, assuming that he does, get here and everything works out. So, I mean, it's kind of like for me, it's kind of like with Gottfried. Like Gottfried, it really built up to when Dennis Smith Jr. came. And then it was like, okay, you got Dennis Smith Jr. What are you gonna do? He did nothing, and then he saw himself out the door. So I think it really that's kind of where it is for me as well. Is that really I just want Keats to do good enough to get to that point where Dillingham comes to town, and obviously probably with some horses as well. And it's like, okay, you got the horses. Like, what are you gonna do? And hopefully that's the year he just breaks it wide open. So that's it for me, because I know that obviously if you let Keats go, more than likely Dillingham's not coming, unless I don't know. It just seems very minute, but that's kind of one other thing as well in the back of my head.
More times than not, these kids are committed to coaches, not schools. So
yeah,
exactly. Unfortunately,
absolutely. And that's definitely a possibility. Like, and if we can get him on campus, then by all means, the kid can hoop.
Yeah.
It's just that's another aspect, and I'm all for the realistically, given Keats can be here next year, but bare minimum we have to make changes on the assistant side. I'm okay with that.
And I think
going back to the Dillingham thing though, like going back to the Dillingham thing though, Jalen LeCue and Josh Hall, we've had these big time studs, and Keats wasn't able to get them on campus. So if again, nobody's going to know except for Robert Dillingham what he's going to do. So, let's say it doesn't work out for 2 more years until Dillingham gets on campus. Are we really trying to put, keep going to get him on campus, and then he highballs us and goes to the G League? Is that a chance we're willing to take?
Yep, that's realistic.
That's true. That's true. That's fair enough. So just to kind of touch on a little bit here on some of the comments here. So Rusty, I think, made a great point. I wanted to say this, but some old school fans would say that opinions such as Bobby's is just being negative. Being critical is not negative; it's realistic. I would say you can be critical and still a diehard fan, and I think that's really alive. Like, I think it was Kenzie Blackwelder on Twitter yesterday basically had it, and it kind of went off a little bit, and I guess some people started going back at her about, well, she doesn't support state anymore. And again, I mean, like, us here at Tough Talk, again, we always try and push the positive, just because there are so many people out there that are going to tell it blatantly, and so we're trying to be the ones to kind of balance on the more positive side, especially too because besides men's basketball, I mean, women's basketball, gymnastics, wrestling, baseball, there's so much good going on right now with NC State. So it's like, let's just let's keep it positive here. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, Bobby's sitting here saying like, Keats should be gone. I'm not necessarily saying, I mean, that you're not right. I'm just saying that it's a tough balance right now. It's a tough conversation right now. It's a tough position right now, I would say, honestly, because there really are good arguments for both sides. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, how State showed up against Carolina the first game is like, really, yeah, that's not good. And unfortunately for Keats, that Virginia Tech game a couple years ago is always going to hang over his head for as long as he's here. Just like for Tony Bennett at Virginia, like it's always going to hang over his head that he lost to a 16 seed as a 1 seed. It's always going to be that way. So it's It's a tough
Tony
one.
Bennett did redeem himself, though.
Yeah, I mean, he won a national championship, so we can
I
forgive
know,
him.
but still, man, golly, man. I mean, again, but he's the only person. He's the only guy ever to lose to a 16 seed.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yep.
it's. But I hear you though.
But in the same realm, Boeheim was the first coach to ever lose to a 15 seed. So I mean,
sure.
you know, and he's won national championships since then.
Yeah.
But I did see an interesting stat today on Twitter, and I don't remember the person who tweeted it, so I apologize. But it basically said we have as many quad one wins as Carolina does.
Yeah.
So think about it. So yeah. So think about it.
That's what they have.
Yeah. So you know, like you said, we try to stay glass half full instead of half empty, but there is also the realistic world that we live in.
Yeah. Yeah. And go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to say, I think there's plenty of ways you can be, you know, critical without being overly negative. We all know some people, I mean, who just have no reason. They don't, you know, back up any arguments. It's just always negative.
Yeah, no, won't get into names there, but and Benjamin said too, brought up a good point about obviously, the attendance is worrisome. You know, obviously, you know, there's a lot of state fans right now that you know you're going to pretty much see, you know, the Baby T show right now. That's pretty much what you know every single night. You're at least going to get the Baby T show. And by the way, Bobby, do you think after the dunk that he had last night that it's still justifiable to call him Baby T? You think
absolutely not? Like,
okay,
that's Big T.
He's
Big
put
T,
the team on his shoulders. He's Big Man T, Big Daddy T, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
All right, Big T. We're switching it to Big T from now on.
Hey, Leighton, going back to the comment about the attendance. I mean, I was there yesterday.
Yeah.
We were lucky to have 8,000 there yesterday in a 19,000 seat arena.
Yeah.
You know, there was sections that were empty. So that's a problem.
Well, because this year too, there's been a lot of people saying, like, you know, well, we shouldn't be at PNC Arena. We should be back in Reynolds Coliseum. And I would say again, like I can show you multiple clips, like back in 2012 when we beat Carolina, and where it was sold out and it was absolutely phenomenal. It can be such a phenomenal arena for college basketball. And also too, there's so many benefits obviously with like the light shows they can do and all that jazz. Yeah, I mean, obviously. Like us ever leaving PNC Arena is just not even actually a conversation piece. But I understand this year where it's like, okay, well, literally you could take those 7,000 people and put it in Reynolds Coliseum and pretty much fill the place, you know, for how it is this year. So, you know, it definitely, it doesn't help. Let's put it that way.
Winning solves that. I promise you, winning solves that.
Yeah.
Oh, it 100% solves that. 100%.
You may not have a full house, but you will have at least 13, 14,000. I know a lot of those tickets are sold, you know, to corporations and they don't go using the tickets, but you start winning, everybody wants to come to your show.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. And you know, one other thing Benjamin too said as well is, you know, obviously, you know, and he obviously said like, you know, who gives a crap about one person doesn't win games. Well, again, the thing I'll say to that is that we're talking about a guy that's going to come 2 years from now. And also too, he's not just some guy, he's, you know, the number one point guard prospect in the country. So think of it as basically like in football. If you got the number one quarterback prospect in the country, it's going to be wide receivers, running backs, defensive players, everybody across the board that's going to want to come play for this guy. So because basically he's the quarterback of basketball. So I mean, you can definitely go ahead and put it in that there's going to be some 4-star, you know, some big time guys that want to come play with Dilly at NC State. But I agree that, and he kind of makes a point and talk about, right now there's not really a scheme going on. Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of X's and O's. Like obviously like with Notre Dame, they went into the zone in the second half we had no answers whatsoever, nothing. Nope. So, which was frustrating, but also too, and Bobby, I want to hear your thoughts on this, but should we be worried about Sebron?
Man,
what's going on?
It's kind of getting that way. Like he doesn't look like he's got that just scores mentality like he had the first half of the year. The Carolina game especially, you know, he
got benched
the entire season up to that point. Yeah, the entire season up to that point, you know, he's a slasher. He's going to go to the rim. He hadn't avoided or shied away from contact, And in the Carolina game, he was trying to, get it away from his body and not touching him, not get fouled. And he just didn't seem as aggressive, maybe a little timid. And it's kind of, I don't know if it was getting benched, but it's kind of carried over the next couple of games.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to get a little worried about it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and again, I mean, like, because one of the things too I saw yesterday, there was really a 2-minute stretch where Sebron missed an open layup, and on top of that, there was one point where Sebron was dribbling up the court, and Baby T was on the opposite side in the corner, wide open, just begging, like he literally put his hands on his head, going, "I'm so open right now."
Yeah.
And Sebron's just not seeing him, and because again, unfortunately, it's just he's not a point guard. He is not a point guard, and because we said this beginning of the season, if Cam Hayes is successful, we're successful. And unfortunately, this year he has been nothing. I mean, like yesterday, he had a little bit of a run, but he's just not taking that step forward like we really have expected to. And so but I mean, it's like, I understand that Keats could probably do some things to help with that, but I mean, missing a layup, that's not really much coaching. That's just you just being focused. Just make the play.
Yeah.
Just make the play. So, but and then you obviously, like your Old State boy made his comment saying, "I know everyone is upset with basketball, but we only have one big man in a young group. We will get better. We will get better. We just have to get through this season." And again, I mean, to that, I completely see the this negative side where it's like, well, why do we have to look past this season? And it's frustrating. Again, we're never one to make excuses, and nobody likes excuses either. So that's kind of really my thing with it. But now Flipper Prophet says, what proven assistant will want to come with Keats on the hot seat? I mean,
it's fair.
Chris Mack.
Chris Mack, bring him on. Absolutely. Hey,
that's not a joke. I'm serious.
No,
he's got I mean, he's got a chip on his shoulder. So I mean, now the only thing I'd be worried about is like, what if I don't know, because obviously Chris would have to take a huge pay cut because I know Louisville is paying him nicely, so he would have to take a huge pay cut. And Old State boy says Cam Bennerman. But
can we go back to Sebron for a second?
Yeah, please, Greg. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, so I in our little chat yesterday, our text chat, I told you I was actually sitting next to a scout from the Golden State Warriors, and he was asking specifically about Sebron earlier in the game. And he was like, how many shots like actual shots, like jump shots, how many jump shots has he taken in this game? And I said, maybe 2 or 3. And he goes, how many of those did he make? And I said, maybe 1. And then so then he goes, yeah, that's what I thought. And so then his next statement was, why isn't he taking over this game? That was right about when we had that 1-point lead, about halfway through the second half. And I said,
yep.
Obviously, I don't know. I said, he's at times earlier in the season, he was making jump shots, but the Scott was right. Like in the last 2 or 3 games, he hasn't been taking many jump shots. He's slashing to the basket, hoping he either gets an and one or a foul or something. There's just no shooting has been really happening, especially the only one that's really shooting anymore is Big T. We're not calling Baby anymore after that dunk. So Big T's been shooting it.
No, Big T.
And we actually shot, as horrible as this sounds, we shot better from 3 yesterday than we did the rest of the, from inside for 2. I mean, it wasn't much difference, but it was not good yesterday.
I think that's happened a couple times, at least 2 or 3 games that were just shot better from 3.
Mm-hmm.
We missed a lot of layups yesterday. I know Allen missed 1. I know Morcell missed a lot of in close shots. He had a good game though. Like he was one of the few that showed up yesterday. Him, and then Sebron ended up with 14, but it was a quiet 14. He got a lot of points in garbage time. So
yeah. Well, and because one thing too, which I kind of look at as well, but Helms has been unfortunately just the definition of inconsistent this year. He has had some huge games this year, but yesterday he shot 0 for 6. So it's just, and again, he's a senior. Like, he should be able every single game to at least get us 6 to 8 points, at least every single game. I mean, he's that talented and we've seen him do it before, so it's that honestly, that's probably between Cam Hayes not really doing much this season and then Helms being inconsistent. those are really my biggest two frustrations this year, really, with this season. In terms of what we can control. I mean, obviously, we can't control, what happens with injuries, but those are
Yeah.
two things that we definitely can't control.
No,
That
yeah.
seems to be a worry.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like even with the injuries we had, if Cam Hayes was a solid point guard and you could rely on Helms every single game to get his 15 to 20 points, I think we would have a much better record, even with the injuries.
Yep.
The one thing I don't understand is if Keats, when he came into state, he, preached pressure. That's just something we're not doing a lot of for whatever reason. I don't understand that. And that seemed to be his philosophy. And he kept saying, once I get my guys, we'll run that. When he ran it yesterday, Notre Dame had a heck of a time responding to it. And I'm just like, why did we not do this earlier in the game? Especially for it being his philosophy. So going back to, the conversation on Keats, what is his identity? What is his philosophy? Because it seems to change. And I get it. It's going to change from game to game based on matchups and all that. But it just does, the consistency in the coaching kind of confuses me sometimes.
I agree.
My little piece on J. Cole, man, I don't get that guy. And I like J. Cole. I think he's a super nice guy. And when he was the 2 or 3 option, he was great for us. Yep. But now that he's the guy, and he's had a couple monster games, and he's had a few games where he was still in double figures, but nothing crazy. But his shot selection was pretty good. And then there have been times that he's not just missing shots. Like his shot selection is just abysmal, and a couple turnovers here and there. It's just inconsistency, and it's at times it's just there's inconsistent where it's just not your night. You're still taking good shots, all that stuff. But man, his inconsistencies at times this year have really baffled me, especially him being a senior.
Yep.
Yeah.
But again, obviously, kind of looking at the kind of the future here. Obviously, at the end of the day, there's frustrations about each, but we know what each guy can do. We know what Helms can do if he's playing his best. We know what Big T, and and all these guys can do when they're playing their best. And again, you got a stretch here of basically 5 games here in the regular season before the AC tournament that are all winnable. I mean, obviously, Wake Forest is playing really well this year, which hats off to them. But it's at NC State, so we'll see what happens there. And then you got Pitt, Georgia Tech, Boston College, and then you got a big season finale with Carolina coming to town. So, a lot of opportunity there on the table, and obviously a lot of opportunity to build momentum heading into the AC tournament. And hey, you never know. We might have. This team is talented enough that, especially if they can get healthy and get Dewana back, that they could make a splash. You never know. Again, just like Scott Tissue said, we have just as much quadrant 1 wins as UNC, so we can pull these big wins. When we want to. So, so switching gears here. So I know that one of the big things that's coming up tomorrow, actually, I want to go ahead and mention it, is the Play for K game. Obviously, NC State bringing in, I think it was number 12 in the country, Georgia Tech. So big game, big opportunity. Obviously this NC State team that obviously unfortunately lost to number 20 Notre Dame at Notre Dame, but we actually did a watch party, and Michael and I pretty much said after that game that it really doesn't change anything really for NC State. I mean, it pretty much just has Louisville jump us again, basically. But, in terms of the outlook for this team or anything like that, it was just basically just a game where things weren't really clicking, but then they answered right back and did a thrashing on Florida State. So I think a game, playing in the K-Yao game in Reynolds Coliseum, where the house that I know Case built, but I would say the house that K built as well. I would be shocked if the girls didn't show up to really step up to the plate for a challenge, and and it's such a great environment.
We have had a negative trend the last 3 games, dating back to the Louisville game. Is we're getting ourselves into deep holes going into the fourth quarter. We've entered those.
Back, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't. I'm sorry. It was we handled Florida State the other night, but it was the 3 before that.
Right.
With Carolina, Louisville, and Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
We entered
Yeah.
all those games double digits down. So we're definitely lucky to pull all three of those out. Or sorry, 2 out of the 3 out. But that's something that we definitely have to clean up. And I'm sure Wes is addressing that. By the way, I saw Wes Moore pumping gas in his red Corvette. That is a sweet ride. He was I was at BJ's before we headed out of town this morning, and he was over there pumping gas and shining up the red cherry Corvette. So
Nice.
he's doing something right. So, but
Dang.
yeah,
Well deserved.
yeah,
Well deserved.
no
by the
doubt.
way.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I mean, go ahead, Bobby.
Okay, so historically, Play for K game, even before Coach Moore, all that stuff. Historically, the Play for K game has always been a great atmosphere, and we've usually had some big wins. Several years ago, when Carolina was a really good program and we were mediocre, they'd come in on the Play for K game. They'd always schedule out for the Play for K game, and it seemed like we'd always win. Tomorrow's gonna be great, especially the ranked team coming in. It's gonna be even better.
Yeah, it's gonna be good atmosphere.
So I have a funny Coach Moore story too. He had just gotten hired, and in the finals in the ACC baseball tournament against Florida State in Durham. It was a bang play at first, and we were at the plate. Guy was called out, and obviously fans don't like it, whatever. And Coach Moore, who just been hired, stands up. That's terrible. That's awful. And all our fans are going crazy. So he bought the fan base right there.
That's awesome.
That's
pretty cool.
Well,
he did a great job out in Omaha too, firing up us fans against when we played Vanderbilt. He was got interviewed in the in stadium, and he was firing up the crowd. I mean, and we ended up having a good inning right after that, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, there's no doubt that obviously he's not only I'm sure obviously a huge Elliott Avon fan, but he's also obviously a huge baseball fan in general. Because I just like Bob was saying. I mean, there's no doubt that he's been to, let's put it this way, probably any state baseball game he can go to, he has gone to. Let's put it this way. I've seen him multiple times at the Doak, and at Omaha, because obviously too. I actually talked with Wes at Omaha, and he was saying that he was in town doing some recruiting, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, but you also, let's be real. You want to go, exactly.
Just
You're
happened to
recruiting,
be in Omaha.
just happened to be in Omaha, Nebraska. It's like
he was trying to get that trip paid for.
Exactly.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
smart man. And one thing too I want to mention as well is, so actually Michael and I actually learned this because we know that the men's tournament is in Brooklyn, New York this year. So I always thought that the men's and the women's play in the same place, but in actuality, apparently this year the women's tournament is actually still in Greensboro. So
that's actually permanent home for the women's.
Really permanent?
Yeah. They've played in Greensboro for the last at least 5 or 6 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So see, learn something new every day. So definitely make sure, NState fans, for sure that, tickets aren't much right now. I think that actually you can buy the entire booklet for the entire tournament for like $100 a ticket. So it's not too much. It's a lot. Well, yeah, men's is expensive for sure.
I did. My dad and I did the ACC tournament a few years ago when it was in Barclays. Not a fan. It was one. It's not a great area. Brooklyn's not the best. We ended up staying in Airbnb. Hotels were just so ridiculously expensive. There's not much in Brooklyn, and you end up having to maybe stay in Manhattan or something, and then subway over. We had a good trip. Lots of things to do other than the tournament when we had downtime. That was when we choked against I think it was Georgia Tech. We blew that game, so we were one and done.
Oh.
So we just hung out the rest of the tournament, and that was a good time. I think that was the year UVA beat Carolina in the final. So we ended up buying UVA t-shirts for the championship game.
Yes, I love it. So yeah, definitely looking for the girls to bounce back and get right back on pace, and not really too much worry about them whatsoever. But especially with Wes Moore running the show.
I do want to point out Georgia Tech has the number 2 scoring defense in the whole country. There are only 2 teams that hold their opponents less than 50 points, and it's Albany and Georgia Tech. So
that powerhouse Albany.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a tough game.
Yeah, they're big.
sure.
She's really good. She's given Kunane troubles in the past, the last couple of years. So hopefully
Yeah.
our ladies come to play. Which, like Bobby said, the atmosphere for Play for K is just electric. I did it a few years ago, and it's loud. I mean, I love a Rockin' Reynolds for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yes. No, there's no doubt that like so because my wife and I again, my wife graduated from South Carolina, so we went to the opening game, South Carolina, and I mean, there's no doubt that when that place is sold out, it is even still to this day one of the premier environments in college basketball. Just and because not necessarily of how loud it is, but there's no doubt that it's loud, but just like it's the perfect like combination of history, tradition,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and just like today's environment. Like it's an amazing place to play in, and that's why I like going to Shushevskyville, Carmichael, sorry, Cameron indoor. It's still so funny to step in and be like, yeah, I could definitely see that the designer is the same between these two buildings because they are very
Yeah.
similar. It's creepy
Mhm.
almost, actually. So switching gears here a little bit to wrestling, actually. So, Greg, I got to put you on the spot here. So I know, obviously, you had the distinct honor of going to your first wrestling event against Virginia on Friday. So give the fans and Bobby as well. I know that Michael and I saw you, but give Bobby and the rest of the fans kind of your 401 in terms of your thoughts on the match.
Yeah. First off, I love going to an event where state dominates, so that makes it a lot much more enjoyable, right? So, about
Yeah.
3/4 of the way, I could just relax and be a fan and not like be on the edge of my seat, even though I still was.
Sure.
I mean, for my first event, kind of knowing what a takedown is and basic things, and when the ref does this thing, you like with this color band, okay, I can figure out who gets the point, and well, then
Yeah.
like he starts doing 4 counts. I'm like, what the heck is this? Like, I don't understand. But then everyone's cheering, so I was like, okay, it must be good. All right, cool.
Cool. Good.
And then of course I figured out the pin real quick. I've watched enough WWF to figure out what a pin is. So, but other than that, it was fun. I mean, I tweeted out after. I said, I think I tweeted, NC State, wrestling is awesome. That is all. My first duel, I'm hooked. Like, I will definitely be back. One of the coaches tweeted back at me, so we're gonna see you at Virginia Tech, and I like. But my wife's like, no, I don't think we're gonna do that because we got to
Yeah.
drive 4 hours, and it's on like I think a Sunday night. So
It'll be on
um,
TV.
yeah, I'll definitely watch it there. So yeah, it was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Meeting some folks that I hadn't met in person, like Michael, and then a couple other state fans. So it was awesome. I had a great time. I keep saying awesome. I don't know why, but it was awesome. So.
It was.
Hey,
It was awesome.
Well, just like he put a baby counter on me, Greg, during the watch parties, I'm going to put an awesome counter on you during
There
the
you go.
live
That's
stream,
fair.
I guess.
That's fair.
So Bobby, let me ask you, how much do you follow wrestling?
I love wrestling. When I was in college,
Sweet.
I went to a bunch. I'm living in Northwest North Carolina right now. So when we wrestled up at Appalachian, is 30 minutes up the road. So made the trip up to Boone to watch us wrestle up there.
That's awesome.
That's the only one I've been to so far this year. But whenever it's on TV or whatever, I try to watch whenever I can. And even if it's not televised or if I'm not in front of a TV, I'm always checking the Twitter updates and all that stuff. So I love it.
Yeah.
You said it keeps you on the edge of your seat, man. Wrestling, for me, I'm always like kind of squirming with the wrestlers and all that kind of stuff. And props to anybody who does that, because that is a sport that I don't know that I could do.
No, it's crazy.
No.
By the way, the
because,
ACC Championship's in Charlottesville, and I will be there. So just anyone that's interested, Charlottesville. So let's go support our guys. They deserve it.
Nice.
Absolutely. Well, especially too, I mean, like so one thing like Hayden Hidley, he's actually going against and this is why this is one of the many matchups I was looking forward to against Virginia Tech. But the guy who he will be going against in his weight class actually 2 years ago won the national championship in that weight class. So Hayden's got himself quite a challenge this year, and especially too because since he's won ACC championship 4 years in a row, so he has an opportunity this year to be one of the few 5-time conference championship winners. But I'll tell you though, like there's no doubt because I know that one of the things I do know is that basically with Hayden is that pretty much he said that if he comes back, he wants to wrestle at his uh more natural weight. He doesn't want to have to be cutting 10, 15 pounds in order to meet
Right.
weight. And and a lot of people say, well, what does that really matter? Well, there's no doubt that first of all it just makes life a lot easier for the wrestler, but also too I think that like watching him this year, he wrestles with a lot more energy. I feel like he like because I know that is a lot because Hayden is usually over these last 4 or 5 years one of the most aggressive wrestlers I've ever seen. But there's just no doubt that again you just see a lot more just you know there's no push from him whatsoever. He just is so dominant already, but he just looks a whole lot more happier and just again a lot more energetic during the match. So, and obviously getting what I think a first period pin against Virginia was super impressive. And after the match doing a little bit of raise the roof himself,
That was
but
awesome. Dang, I said
yeah,
awesome again.
yeah, 13. So Bobby, but so one thing I want to ask you though, because there's no doubt that I feel like this is the most top to bottom dominant uh lineup that probably NC State wrestling maybe has ever had. I mean, just literally from top to bottom in every single weight class, you have somebody competing there that is at least in the top 25 in the country. Now, the only question which I do have is really when it comes to the heavyweights, and it's more not necessarily um, that there's an issue necessarily with the heavyweight. It's just more of that. I think you have basically three solid options, but just not necessarily anybody dominant really this year. But Deontay Wilson, you know what you get with Deontay. Owen, Trayvon, he's done well. So again, but I'll tell you though, I mean, like between Trent, Tariq, Camacho, Trombley, Ed Scott, Tariq Wilson, like all these guys, like it's a pleasure to watch these guys. Let's put it this way. It is a pleasure to go to a wrestling match and watch all these guys compete. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely. I mean, and you've got different levels of experience doing it because Ed Scott's a youngster,
Right.
and you got the Hidley brothers and Tariq Wilson who are fifth-year guys. Camacho's kind of in the middle there. You got guys doing it all across the board. Heavyweight for me personally, I'm a big experience guy, so I'd probably go with Deontay.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because again, I mean, like my only real issue with Deontay, and this is something that even when we did our wrestling preview before the season with Michael Machiavello, he even said it as well, and we both agreed on it that he's just not the most aggressive wrestler. Like unfortunately, States had been lucky a couple of years ago to have a guy like the Gwiz, come to town and God, that dude was so aggressive. He was just so dominant. It was a treat to watch. And it just seems like with Deontay, he just is more on his heels, but he's a very technically proficient wrestler. But again, he just you know what you're going to get from him. He's going to be number 15. He's probably going to be between the 15th to 20th best wrestler in the country, give or take. He's probably going to win the ACC championship, but he's not really going to do much more than that, or at least that's from what we've seen so far. Not saying he can't, but just from what we've seen so far. So, but that's again because with Virginia Tech, I know that Camacho is looking forward to that Virginia Tech match because I know he's got some bones to pick with Virginia Tech. So it'll be fun to see that when it comes to town. But one thing which I got to mention though too is so 2 weeks from now, if state fans haven't realized that not that 2 weeks from now is a huge NC State weekend. I mean, ginormous NC State weekend. Obviously, with the opening of Pac-9, so we got a 3-game whole series against Evansville to start the Pac-9 season. On top of it, you got Carolina coming to town Friday evening for wrestling. Gymnastics also too has a quad meet, interconference quad meet on Saturday, and then NC State and Virginia Tech go against each other in wrestling in a non-conference matchup. So, I mean, I would say that weekend, hang on to your seats because it's going to be a ride. That's the only thing I can really say about that.
Can I make one more comment about the wrestling from Friday night that I thought was really cool?
Please go for it.
With it's Trumbull, right? Isaac Trumbull or Turnbull?
Isaac Trumbull, yes.
Trumbull, yeah.
Trumbull,
So like the way he came back in his match and to force it to overtime, that was that was fantastic. See, I didn't use awesome that time. But then like the even better moment was right after he did that. He enlisted in the Army. So I thought that was just like, all right, so I'm gonna finish this up real quick and then I'm gonna go join the Army. So I thought that was really cool, man. So congrats to him, and I know he'll do great things for our country after he's done at state. So
yeah, no, thank you for reminding me of that, Greg. That's absolutely true. And one other question I want to ask you as well, and I know Greg and Michael and I were talking about this, and Bobby, I want to kind of hear your thoughts on this, but I would say that, and we pretty much all agree that Pat Popolizio and Coach Hall, I would say, are the best dressed head and assistant coaching duo in college sports. I mean, there's no doubt Coach Hall and Pop, both of them, it seems like every single week are rocking the sweetest suits that I've ever seen, honestly. Like, I don't know where they get it from. I don't know if they like go together and like pick out their suits from Men's Warehouse together or something. I don't know, but they're always styling profile. Let's put it that way.
Yep, I think we lost his mic.
Nope. Nope. Bobby, we lost you, man. Give it a sec. But but while it comes back in, but yeah, no, again, so want to kind of do a quick disclaimer as well that again, I think there's still tickets remaining for the Play for Kane game tomorrow. So if you're listening in and haven't checked out already, if you can go, definitely go check it out, y'all. It's going to be an awesome environment, so make sure to check it out. Again, it's going to be a great game, great environment, great cause. So make sure to check it out. But Bobby, let me know too whenever you get back in. But Greg, one thing I want to ask you about as well is while we're waiting for Bobby is so obviously one of the things I really loved was actually seeing Chuck Amato yesterday. I thought that was really cool to see him in the house, you know, and see him
with his entourage.
Even. Yeah, he did have an entourage. He did.
Yeah, he did.
You're not wrong.
He even had
and look,
some help from above with the priest walking in with him. So.
Yeah, no, but it's good. It's good to see that again. I mean, he's still doing well. He's still supporting NC State through and through. And I mean, not that we ever necessarily worried about that, but you know, it's just, you know, it was cool to see him. Let's put it that way. You know, front and center, and like it was cool to see Pop Popolizio come over and say hey to him as well. So obviously, I'm assuming that he's a pretty routine supporter. I'm guessing of NC wrestling.
Didn't Chuck wrestle at State too, if I'm not mistaken? I obviously he was a linebacker at State, but I thought he wrestled too.
He may have.
Yeah, I don't know where. I thought I might have read that at some point, and I could be just totally making stuff up, which wouldn't be new for me. So, I something just reminded me that he used to wrestle there. You know, back in those days, you know, there were such things as two-sport athletes. It's not as common as it is today, obviously, with it being so focused.
But, no worries. So, and actually too, Chuck commented as well, saying that he saw you down there hanging out with Chuck Amato. So, did he come and say hey to you at all, or did he recognize you just like the rest of Wolfpack Nation?
No, he didn't. I've actually met Coach Amato a couple of times. He's always been so gracious. He'll say hi to anyone, take a photo. My dad still loves the moment that he got to meet Chuck at a men's basketball. He saw him at a men's basketball game a few years ago, actually. So I do love that he goes out and supports all the teams. I definitely appreciate coaches and former coaches, doing that, supporting their brethren.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Bobby, feel free to jump in if whenever. Just want to make sure see if it's there.
He said everything was good. You don't know what's going on.
No. Here,
just hold up a sign.
Just hold up a sign here. Let me remove him. Yeah, here. I'll tell him to jump back in because I want to hear his comments about Pop.
I will say the best shoe game though is Coach Keats when he pulls out those Wolf Gucci shoes.
The Gucci,
yeah. I mean, now that basketball,
they're not wearing.
So they've dressed down. I was watching the Indiana-Illinois game, and Coach Woodson for Indiana actually had a suit on yesterday. That's the first coach this season that I've watched a game where the coach got dressed, like they used to dress. So I thought that was kind of cool. So, but I mean, Woodson's kind of an old school guy anyway.
Yep.
How about
I think
now?
I hear Bobby.
Yeah, we got him.
We got you.
Okay.
Got him. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Bobby. So again, Coach Hall, Popolizio, best dressed duo in college sports. Agree or disagree?
Okay, yeah. So, absolutely. Suits are always, perfect, whatever. Again, I was giving credit to App's staff because they tried to match it. They all wore suits as well, but they didn't fit the same. Until the rules changed this year for college basketball, Coach Keats and his staff would give them a run for their money, though.
Yeah,
Mhm.
agreed.
Yeah, I agree. And also Chuck Coates confirmed that Chuck Amato did wrestle for the Pack, and he was really good from what he's heard. So,
Yeah. Thanks,
um,
Chuck.
and yeah, and one disclaimer I want to go and throw out there as well is actually Friday night. So 7 p.m. State goes against Pitt, and so we're actually going to be doing a watch party for NC State wrestling that night. We're actually going to be having on Michael Machiavello and Chuck Coates actually to watch and react to the game. So make sure to make plans. Tune in with us, and again, that should be a lot of fun. Should be a fun time to hopefully see a big win over a solid Pitt team. Because that's really one thing I want to kind of harp in on is that I feel like that like a couple years ago, uh, that the ACC was a lot more heavy, one versus the other. I feel like the ACC now in wrestling between Pitt, Carolina, uh, and State, Virginia Tech, Virginia.
Yeah.
I mean, those are all 5 teams which have solid teams and solid programs, and also to young staff. Like that's the thing is that like all of them have staff that's in their 30s, 40s that are really early in their coaching career. And I know that especially like specifically Virginia Tech and State, that I mean that has grown itself into a wrestling rivalry that's up there with the biggest of them between Iowa and Penn States and you
Yeah.
name it. So it's up there with the best of them.
I like how State's really recruited well up in that area, the Pitt, the
They have.
Pennsylvania, Ohio area. Like we've gone
Mhm.
and poached some of their best wrestlers from up there. Just reading as I was trying to get smart on wrestling, and the crash course that I did, just looking at where these kids were from, and it was like the hotbeds of wrestling. So, give Coach Pop a lot of credit for that. That's probably not easy to do.
No, no. Well,
Yeah.
because really the biggest thing for me too, honestly, is that I think because I've talked with Coach Hall about this multiple times, but I mean, because Coach Hall is obviously a great enough coach that he could easily go to pretty much probably most job opportunities out there, and they would love to have him as a head coach. So I think honestly for me that would be the best job that Coach Pop can do is if he can hold on to Coach Hall for as long as we can. And I know that obviously Coach Hall and him and his wife have a young child that I mean I know they love it here in the Raleigh area, so definitely don't see him necessarily leaving anytime soon. But if the right opportunity comes, who knows? So, but that's really the biggest thing for me. But even seeing like a young coach like Kevin Jack, who was just a couple years ago an All-American wrestler, and now he's done a good job being a coach, being a assistant coach, and obviously too is watching his younger son Ryan Jack seems like almost to be picking up right where Kevin Jack left off. It's
Yeah.
obviously runs pretty strong in their family, I guess, right, Bobby?
Yeah, it must.
So jumping over a little bit here is one of the things I want to talk about is women's tennis right now. And the one thing everybody might say women's tennis. Why are we talking about women's tennis? And for those state fans who
Because they're
don't know, they're
good.
actually they're 7-0
Very
right
good.
now. They are 7-0,
Top 10.
and they've beaten number 23 Princeton, number 10 Ohio State, number 21 Tennessee. I mean, again, they're I think they're number 4 in the country right now. So, I
4 was the
mean,
last I saw, but I don't know when their
okay.
rankings come out.
So believe it or not, Wolfpack Nation, Simon Ershaw has got himself quite a career over there with women's tennis. Obviously, going to, the program's first ever Final Four last year. So I know that we can't leave this live stream without bringing that up again. How impressive it's been. Hats off to them on their amazing start so far this season.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So, so go ahead, Greg.
Well, I just to say, I know they advanced. I don't understand exactly how their season works because I saw that they advanced to the
Yeah.
indoor championships, but that wasn't played this week, so I don't know when that's scheduled for. Because I know
Right.
they played someone yesterday, and I think they won. So
South Carolina.
yeah, that's what it was. Thanks, because I know
Yeah.
our men won today. They beat they're number 24 in the country, and they beat UCF 4-0. So they're a top program as well. But getting back to the women,
Yep.
so they've advanced to their indoor championships whenever that's going to be held.
Nice.
So Bobby, let me ask you one question though too. And I see Rusty brought it up as well. But so I saw a tweet which was unconfirmed, but supposedly, so Mac Brown, his salary this upcoming season is going to be $5 million, and supposedly Dorn's raise this upcoming season will put him to $5,034 per year starting next year. So I don't know if that's true or not necessarily.
If that's true, that's the best troll ever.
I 100. Oh my god, I 1,000,000% agree on that. I mean, so Bobby, I guess first of all, have you heard anything about anything like that? But also, too, second of all, I mean,
that's the best troll ever.
Is there any kind of disagreement whatsoever? I mean, like, I don't know. Again, there's always going to be that 1%er that maybe think that Dorn shouldn't get that raise. But I mean, you know.
So, first off, if that's true, that's awesome. I do know that Dave and Mac have the same agent. So
yeah, I did read that too.
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
So it's possible that that's true. I am I'm a big Dorn fan. I said I don't think Keats is the solution long term, but I'm not one of those crazy guys who's commenting everything after we lose. I think you all know who I'm referring to. But I've been a Dorn fan since day one. I was a Dorn apologist when people were wanting him gone. So I think it's 1,000% deserved. I'm a big Coach D fan. I think his mindset and personality fits us perfectly. Player development is fantastic, especially when I worked for the team for those couple of years working under him. Well deserved. Awesome. I'm so happy for him. Can't wait to have him around for longer.
Completely agree.
So and confirm me if I'm wrong too, but didn't also too Dave Dorn and Mark Gottfried have the same agent as well? Wasn't that a thing? Or am I wrong on that?
I don't know. Wouldn't surprise me.
Okay. That was another thing I was thinking about as well. But yeah, I mean, I saw that, and that was 100% unconfirmed, obviously, because we would know whenever Dorn actually gets his extension or raise. But I mean,
I would pitch in the $34.
Yeah. I know, no, me too. No, dead seriously. I mean, that would be amazingness. But again too, also too. I mean, and let me say this as well, Michael. I guess I'll ask you this first. But so I know that obviously Mac Brown signed a 1-year contract extension, and so I mean, from your side, I mean, looking at what Mac Brown's done so far, I mean, I know there's still a lot of excitement. Obviously, UNC still, even after only winning 6 games, signed the number 10 overall recruiting class in the country, which I don't know why. I mean, what are they like? Like literally, literally, they're just trying to bring them in with a trophy that doesn't even belong to UNC. So that's the only thing I could think of why these players are coming. So I mean,
they promised them Amfran classes.
No, I mean, on as to why they're giving him an extension, I mean, I think he's always been a good recruiter. Obviously, he was a coach at Texas a long time, won a national championship.
Sure.
And you can always hang your hat on those recruiting classes as a coach, like to say, look, I'm building the future. We have the number 1 class in the ACC, top 10 overall. And, to give confidence to those players coming in, I need an extension that'll be here the whole time they're here. That's kind of my thoughts on it. I don't think that's UNC saying they're happy with going 6 and 7, but more of probably good negotiating on Mac Brown's part and his agent.
More Mac Brown's agent.
If they keep going 6 and 7, I'm all for it. Keep extending.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm okay with them being a football school to the third game of the season.
Yeah. You are again. That is a chip on my shoulder, which I can't go too much in, but that is an unfortunate personal experience chip on my shoulder. So yeah, it's annoying, but again, that's why it does. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna make
Go
a
ahead,
funny
Greg.
comment. I'll just say they got chairbacks on their seats.
Woohoo!
They do. They do.
Reduce the
Woohoo.
capacity.
Hey now.
They have artificial turf.
Yeah. They have
I love how they
turf.
keep
Yeah,
throwing
no.
gas on the fire in this too, because State and Carolina, we're different at
With the schedule.
just about every level. But right now, they're signing these big time guys and winning 6 games. We're signing 3, and we're getting some good 4 stars, but no 5 stars. We're getting these guys. Yeah. They are 1,000% hype, and we are 1,000% substance overhype.
There you go.
Yep.
It's all about player development.
And obviously that. Yeah, no, there's no doubt, and because again, I mean, like, literally, we're one of the few schools not only kept really most of their players, really more at least as many as we can, but also too have kept an entire coaching staff as well. So I mean, and again, we'll talk a little bit more about this as we get closer really to football season, but there's no doubt that Doran has a huge opportunity here to not only just take a huge step in his tenure and NC State football's tenure, but also to kind of give a little bit of a middle finger. Let's be realistic to the Carolinas. If he can deliver on the hype that UNC couldn't deliver, you know what I mean? So because that's really a lot of it right now is everybody's like saying, okay, but now you're in the same position that Carolina was in, so don't lay an egg. I 100% agree. Do not lay an egg. Do not, especially that ECU game. Holy smokes! Just please, let's beat ECU at ECU. Again, we're not going to get too much in football here because unfortunately we ran out of time. But that is my plea right now, which I'll plead every single week until that game. Please don't lose to ECU. Please don't lose to them. So, so Bobby. Before we go, man, I want to give it to you being the special guest with us, man. Any final thoughts?
Man, we already talked about ECU. That game, I'm already terrified about that one, by the way.
Yes.
So I'm a baseball nerd. Baseball's coming up soon, a couple weeks. I'm so excited for that. I know you guys will be all over that too. Thank you so much for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And again, obviously Wolfpack Nation, make sure to go give Bobby Anderson a follow over the Two-Man Wolfpack podcast. Again, 2 great guys that, again, I think are a great balance of, again, realistic, but also too just huge NC State fans through and through, just like all of us, So make sure to go give them a follow on Twitter and Instagram, or just Twitter.
Yep, Twitter and Instagram.
All right, sweetness. So, but anyway, so thank you so much, Bobby, for tuning in with us, and Greg and Michael, and thank you all as well for
Can I have a final
us,
thought real
man.
quick? Can I have a final thought?
Go for it, Greg. I
right.
love it, man.
All right. With much consideration, talking to my friends and family, I have officially committed to Tuffy Talk. So let's go.
Oh, shit.
Let's go.
Get the hat. Finally got the hat.
I was like,
man,
Greg. I was like, Greg, you've already committed to being a State fan for next year. So you already made that public on Twitter a couple months ago. So I was like, what is he committing to now? Oh man, that's hilarious. That's awesome, Greg. Appreciate that, man.
Nah, man, thanks for having me.
Red looks good on you, man.
I love it.
Oh yeah.
Awesome, guys. Well, hey, as always, appreciate everybody tuning in with us. And again, make sure, we'll see you guys hopefully to play for K game tomorrow. But if not, we got at least a big weekend coming up in 2 weeks. So we'll see you all then as well for the kickoff of Pac-9 and obviously a lot of wrestling and all that jazz. So as always,